Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is John Harkins. I am the Events Associate for the French American Chamber of Commerce, New York chapter. We are so proud to be partnering with Capgemini Applied Innovation Exchange and the VR/AR Association to bring you AR, VR, and the luxury, fashion, beauty, consumer experience. Now, our 1 hour together will be made up of a half-hour panel discussion, AR, VR demonstrations, and then followed by Q&A. I realize that we have plenty to get to, so I will let our moderator, John Holler, client partner at Capgemini, jump right into things. John?
Thanks, John. Hello and welcome, everybody. As John said, my name is John Holler, and I am a client partner in the retail practice at Capgemini. I'm based in the New York City area. I've been in the space primarily for my career for 30 years, serving retailers and fashion and apparel brands. And right now, I lead our work at Capgemini with several leading retailers and fashion and brands, primarily in the Eastern United States. I'll be the moderator for today. And what I'd like to do is hand it over for quick introductions for our three panelists. Maybe, Hallie, let's start with you. Hallie, are you there? Raheel, can you hear me?
I sure can, John.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Hallie had a. Go ahead. Why don't you start, Raheel?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. I'm sure you'll join back.
You'll be back.
So, hi, everyone. So good to meet you. And I guess my name is Raheel. I work at the Estee Lauder companies. I lead category strategy and innovation. Estee Lauder, as many of you know, is a leader in prestige beauty. We have iconic brands such as MAC, Estee Lauder, La Mer, Jo Malone, to name a few. My is to ensure that our brands are gaining market share in the categories that I create strategies for. But mostly, what I'm mostly sort of proud about is leading a very talented team of data scientists, strategists, consumer insights folks who collaborate to connect dots and surface insights to catalyze creativity. Over to you, John. John, I think you're on mute.
All right, Raheel. Hallie, are you there? And can you give a quick introduction?
Hi, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I lead our corporate partnerships program here at XRC Labs. So we're a venture fund that invests in early stage consumer goods companies, as well as retail technology companies. So we've had the pleasure of seeing some really interesting AR, VR solutions come through our doors looking for funding. I have the pleasure of working with corporate partners like Estee Lauder, TJX, CVS, as well as service providers like MasterCard, Accenture, and GS1 US. So we see a lot of super interesting companies, and I get to hear about all the cool use cases that corporates are looking at. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Hallie.
Hi.
And Sila?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Sila. I'm the head of global marketing for Minsar. It's a Paris-based company that's building a no-code software for creating and distributing AR and VR experiences.
Great. Thanks, Sila. All right, team, let's go ahead and get to it. I know it's interesting we're talking about AR and VR this time. We at Capgemini did some recent research around customer experience and how it's going to change in a post-COVID world. And one of the things that we found, and the research was global, it was done across the world. One of the things we found is that anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of customers expect to have more of a touchless, totally non-human interactive type experience now, as well as in a post-COVID world. So as we think about the different consumer experiences and how they're being reimagined, what is your sense in terms of, from a contactless world, from an AR and VR standpoint, where do we see in terms of trends within that space? And maybe I'll start with Raheel, if you want to start, and then we'll just sort of go through, and then dig into it.
Yeah, sure, John. I'll start. So, look, I think it's a very good question, right? So, let me kind of answer it by kind of framing it by kind of saying that. So, technology is an enabler, right? And pandemic has been the accelerator, and it's essentially accelerated some of the things that at least that we were seeing already happening. It's push the adoption of those kind of consumers who were early adopter, and that adoption's gone a little bit broader. And as you mentioned, post-COVID, consumers are continuing to expect, contactless world and a world which is more digital in nature, right? So, but before I think, so the question is around what are some of those kind of consumer needs, right? And I still go back to, so at Estee Lauder Companies, we have a proprietary analytics framework where we leverage AI to mine millions of consumer conversations. And we mine those conversations online, consumer reviews, social media platforms, etc. And what we're seeing right now is during pandemic, post-pandemic as well, that essentially the consumer desire for connecting with communities and desire for discovery continues, and actually in some cases has actually increased, right? When you're kind of stuck in your home, you want to escape and you want to connect with communities and you want to discover. And now the question is around how that discovery has gone virtual. That's kind of thing one, right? High level themes. Theme two is that we still continue to also see, like we used to before, that within prestige beauty, right, consumers have many different needs and different benefits that they're looking for. So as an example, women on average use 12 to 14 different products, from different brands even in the course of a day. By comparison, if you think about detergent, usually it's one or two detergent products or brands, right? So our industry, prestige beauty, is one where you have different needs based on different occasions, based on different, kind of evolving skin needs and the looks that you're looking for. And what we see is that continues to be the case. And so how does that, connect with the technology around contactless or virtual try-on? Just a couple of examples, right? So product education, for example, is one way by which you can connect what your benefits are, that the needs that you have, and what are those needs and what are they going to do to you, right, as a consumer. So we have this amazing, Clinique has this amazing technology called clinical reality, which is basically you upload your picture on this app, right, this iPhone or iPad app, and it can start to show you what is the right product for you, right? It's kind of personalization one-on-one. But then it can also eventually, right, start to go into, because you want to know how 4 weeks from now your kind of skin is going to change based on the products that you're going to use, right? And that's kind of what we start to see from at least kind of like from a product education standpoint, and connecting your benefits that you need with the products that you have. And then in terms of the contactless world, perhaps, I don't know if you, John, if you want me to go into that as well, or if you want to focus on the virtual try-on piece, which I know is a deep topic.
Yeah, let's maybe I'll focus with Hallie and Sila in terms of just the initial virtual try-on, or AR, VR, and then we'll come back to that. So Hallie, what are you seeing in terms of this space at the high level with regards to contactless and just how it's changing, had been changing and now will change in sort of in a post-COVID world also?
Sure. Everyone can hear me, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot with virtual try-on in the beauty space. Here at XRC Labs, we have had a lot of interactions with startups like AlgoFace, Nudist, YouCam. We're seeing lots of beauty brands adopting these technologies. So, for example, L'Oreal rolling out the ability for shoppers to simulate various hair color shades from Garnier using augmented reality. L'Oreal, has been letting its customers use virtual try-on, and they're seeing a 3x conversion rate, which is just incredible. And I'm sure Estee is seeing, somewhere in that magnitude as well. Sephora, YSL, Ulta, all enabling virtual try-on to some degree. So we're seeing in the beauty space, it's starting to become table stakes, especially now that people by and large can't go into stores. It's ever more critical. And for those that can, right, with beauty samples sort of going the way of the dodo bird, it's really a touch and hands-free experience now. So virtual try-on allows you to still have the store experience with an expert, makeup artist, for example, helping you and assisting you while you use AR, VR to try it on. So on, the consumer side, health and safety is a huge benefit of the technology. And then on the fashion side, we're seeing, a lot of, for example, virtual sneaker try-on apps. We saw one come through for funding. Big brands like Gucci are using it. We're sort of wondering if it's a good replacement for fit, especially when it comes to shoes. So there certainly are some limitations on the fashion side that beauty isn't contending with. And then what we think is super interesting is fashion shows are going virtual. In fashion, we saw the democratization of these shows happening pre-COVID, but now we feel like, for example, with Paris Fashion Week in October, enabling sort of an extended lens and more people able to come to the show with Oculus and Microsoft. It'll be really interesting to see what happens as more and more people can access luxury fashion at the show level. And
Sure,
I'll start talking.
Yeah, no, those are good examples. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sila, what are you seeing, at least from a Mensar standpoint, in terms of the same topic with regards to contactless and sort of where we are and where we're going with COVID?
Sure. So I'm seeing, the consumer experience. It's more and more about customized experiences. Everything, products and so on. The consumers want customized products. I'd say AR is pretty much the perfect platform for being able to avoid having large amounts of stock that would, make it harder for consumers to be able to try on hundreds of different models of a certain product. On the contactless side, I think we have like a strong future with Spark AR, which is the AR platform for the Facebook applications, Instagram and Facebook. And basically that means that, in the very near future, we're going to be able to start sharing customized AR experiences directly through social media. So I think that is going to be able to accelerate the development of AR pretty quickly.
Great. Those are good examples. So maybe in sort of diving down a little bit deeper into this whole world, folks, if we think about sort of the consumer experience, and I know each of you touched on some examples of AR and VR, maybe a concrete example. Raheel, maybe we'll start with you with regards to AR, VR within the cosmetic space, and then we'll maybe talk about what's the impact in your mind in terms of the customer, this whole notion of customers accepting the technology, and when, as we all know, there's two lines of customer acceptance versus technology capability, and sometimes those two lines don't cross for a while. And maybe comment on what you see it's going to take for a customer to accept that technology to become almost an everyday occurrence. So maybe Raheel, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think it's an interesting question, right? I think my sense is that the consumer is not going to wait, right? What we're seeing is this pent-up kind of need from the consumer, where she wants to kind of like start to go back to exploration, right? Start to go back to discovery and the things that really excite her, right? Like this is kind of what we all live for at the end of the day, right? We want to do the things that we want to do that are in our heart. So I think that the consumer is, not going to. I think the technology has to catch up with the consumer need, and I think that if you kind of think about also the e-commerce journey, right? what's interesting to me when I was looking at some of the data recently was that e-commerce was adopted obviously less so by older consumers. But when the pandemic hit, right, what we saw was that the ageless consumers all of a sudden kind of like came and adopted this kind of e-commerce technology, right, for essentially because the stores were shut. And so so essentially, I think if we kind of take the learning of kind of like that kind of consumer adoption mindset and take that learning that the older consumers actually adopted e-commerce, and once they got on it, they actually started to use it and like it, and actually now we're seeing, even though as stores are opening up, that they're still sticking with it, right? Like at Estee Lauder Companies, we have 300 brand.com sites, and I think earlier Soleil was mentioning about customization, right? I think these technologies, whether e-commerce, AR, VR, like all these kind of digital technologies, also allow consumers to actually feel. For me, the true sense of customization, personalization is feeling included, right? And so technology allows actually that consumer, once he or she kind of goes over the hump of how much ever the whatever the limitations of the technology are, once they go over that, they do start to see the benefit of kind of like getting what they need, right? And so therefore feeling included, right? So so I think that in terms of the journey of the adoption, for sure technology is probably a little bit slower to where the consumer mindset is. But I think that as the technology is getting up to speed with, and I'm sure we'll see some of the demos today, I think that once though, however, that the consumer gets on it, from at least from what we're seeing with the data, she's sticking with it because she's also seeing the benefits that she wasn't able to get, previously. For example, right, like being able to actually, so she wants to try many different shades of lipstick. In the store you can try 2 or 3 because even if you kind of like take away the whole safety and contact world, now with the digital world, with now the quality being pretty good, right, for this kind of virtual try on space, you can try 20 or 30 lipstick shades and quickly figure out what you would look like instantly. And so therefore I think that the consumer is basically gonna just get there, and now that she's gonna be forced to go over that hump, she's seeing the benefits that are beyond just kind of like what traditionally she would have thought.
Great. Nope, that makes sense. It's it's a different sub-segment, but my mother never bought anything online. She only buys her groceries online. I'm not sure she'll ever go back to a grocery store again.
Exactly.
So it's just, she had to adopt it, and she's sold, she's hooked. So, so Hallie, maybe let's go back to you in terms of customer experience. What do you see in terms of customer experience catching up with technology, how people are adopting, et cetera?
Yeah, I think so. Regarding maturity, we'd make the argument that AR and VR is really a technology-led change versus problem-led. So what we mean is the tech, it's been piloted, it's been created without knowing where to apply it. So AR has been around for a while now, looking for use cases. So take Snapchat as an example. It was founded 9 years ago and piloted face filters, essentially the same tech as virtual try-on, but beauty companies didn't catch up for some time. Now, years later, virtual makeup try-on is finally hitting mainstream for larger brands. So I think, and of course, now with the health and safety issues at play, we're seeing it sort of move to more mass adoption. So it's been super interesting to watch. And I would say that we're looking at 3 use cases in beauty and fashion. Brand building is super important. So, for example, Balmain, in Milan. In their store, they had virtual reality experience based on dreamlike inspirations from the creative director. So that's a really, immersive, experiential opportunity for the consumer. Meanwhile, virtual try-on is very tactical, right? We're seeing that in beauty. And then we also see this added layer of information in store. So the consumer being able to access with their phone a lot of the rich content that they would see online in store. So it's super interesting to see where it's headed. And I would say, we've all heard this 100 times, but we're seeing a massive acceleration of the adoption of this technology due to COVID.
Yep, agreed. Makes sense. Sila, any other sort of customer experience type stories or examples that you've seen in terms of customers' adoption, et cetera?
Sure. Yeah, I think, in terms of adoption, we're not quite there yet. We're still kind of in the early phase in terms of headsets. Headsets tend to be kind of cumbersome, clunky. I don't think people are kind of ready to adopt this on like a daily basis yet. But there are some really promising solutions for that out there. The rumored Apple AR glasses, the Nreal AR glasses that have been developed recently are very light. But I think, for now, I'm still seeing most of AR consumer experience resting on iOS and Android devices. But I will mention one new technology that I think, can have a pretty significant transformative factor on the consumer experience, which is the Microsoft spatial anchors that have just been released, which essentially allows people to create an AR VR experience that stays in place with up to 2 centimeters of precision. So that basically allows us to create kind of like wayfinding use cases. So we could imagine that, let's say it's Starbucks, for example, you're getting out of the subway, you click on your AR experience link, you follow the coffee cups to your next Starbucks location. You arrive, you have your menu in AR, you place your order, and everything kind of rolls along in terms of wayfinding based on that technology.
Great. Oh, those are good examples. Thank you. So, it's interesting, team. We talked about several devices, right? Sally, you just mentioned the spatial technology. Talked about glasses. We talked about obviously the use of handsets, phones, et cetera. Let's all sort of predict the future here, and maybe we'll go through with each of the folks. If we look out maybe 3 to 5 years, and I know this is tough based on the world we live in today versus hopefully the world we're going to live in 12 months, let's say. But what would you bet on in terms of technology that customers would adopt and embrace? Based on AR and VR and where we think it's going. So, anybody or Raheel, if you want to start, we seem to be in a good sort of flow here. So, Raheel, I'll let you start in terms of where you see things going in the next 3 to 5 years. And if you were a betting person, what would you bet on in terms of customer adoption of different AR and VR type technology?
Yeah, sure, John. So, look, I think. Let me kind of like share my learning with you and then maybe how I'm thinking about it as well. So I think, look, every time, if we think about it, particularly in beauty, but probably applies to other industries as well, right? Like every time there's been like a new media out there, whether it be think about, when YouTube came and that allowed consumers to really learn and get educated around things, it drove a lot of, new consumers to come into the channel, right? Or into the industry. And actually drove increased consumption as well, right? So think about Instagram, same idea, right? Like new media, new kind of channel, and it drove inspiration and consumers to try new things and drove our industry, made our industry even bigger. Similarly, I think the way I think about this world is sort of like also new media in a sense, right? Like we're talking virtually right now on Zoom. Whether it's kind of Zoom, this kind of virtual conversations we're having, leveraging AR, VR, etc. All of this, I think, kind of still falls in this new media world. So first of all, I think I'm super excited about it, and I do think that this is going to drive new consumers to come in and new consumption. And the way to think about it is, to me, is around how is it going to change the funnel of the consumer journey, right? From awareness to, kind of like, what does she consider and how does she get educated around the things that she wants? How does she try them? What is the price point she wants to kind of try them on? Purchase, repurchase, and then loyalty and advocacy, right? Like, if you think about that entire journey, that kind of like consumer journey, then I think, where are the intersections in each of those points of the journey where different technologies have a role to play? For example, if you think about, gesture controlled interfaces, right? Or interactive walls and like these surfaces which are, no touch. Maybe they are right for the consideration set, right? In this kind of this new media world, where, you have now a bigger option of products to consider from. And then, and then maybe, kind of let me jump quickly towards, you've now tried it. And now there's another, I first started with like this deep connection that you want to have with the community. And maybe like the way you amplify and socially share these deep connections is through some other technology, right? Perhaps it's you with your avatar, with your look, and you're sharing it in this community and getting people to weigh in. And now, before you even like actually try a physical product on, you're already getting your friends to weigh in on like how you look and what you should do differently. Your friends, your community, or the artist for example. And all of that, can be done actually by you sitting just like we are right now. So now I'm not giving you a specific technology answer, but more around, I think, thinking about what we learned from the past, from like these new media that drove almost like an explosion of, like industry sales and new consumers across the consumer journey. And then around each point of the journey, there's going to be a role, and maybe the folks, that are, on the panel can maybe weigh in on like what are those various technologies that allow the consumer to kind of seamlessly go around that journey.
Yeah, because in a way, you're right. You're almost saying there is an integration of multiple technologies that enable that, right?
Exactly.
And that consumers respond to and see value in. So, so you're right. I agree. Well, that's a good tee up. So Hallie, Rahil's looking for different pieces of technology to integrate together to sort of create what he just described. What do you see as the future of different pieces and capabilities?
It's a great question. I think, yeah, we almost all need a framework on the brand side to address how everything fits together, right? How does AR and VR in store interact with peer-to-peer, which interacts with social? So it'll be interesting to see how all these platforms hook into each other to create amazing experiences for the consumer and engender loyalty, to Rahil's point. I think brands, for better or worse, have a lot of investments to make to stand all of this up in the next, like, we'll see what the next 18 months holds. Well, we all wait for a vaccine, hopefully. And then, what the next 3 to 5 years holds. It'll be a very interesting world on the brand side. I'll say that.
Agreed. Yeah. Sila, well, what's your thought in terms of where we go from here, from the future, and what is the whole?
So as Rahil was saying earlier, our adoption curves are getting faster and faster every time we have a new technology. Like when Bell telephones came out, it took 40 years for every household to have a telephone at home, while the internet, cell phones all had much faster adoption curves. I have kind of like a very futuristic view for the near future, but basically, envisioning that our 2D websites today are going to be tomorrow's 3D universes that basically allow brands to fully immerse themselves, fully immerse their customers in their brand and their products. for example, we can imagine like having a Coca-Cola can. You scan the can with your phone, it recognizes the image, and instead of bringing us to their 2D website, it brings us into the brand universe of the company. So I think there's a lot of potential in the future, and the technology is getting there. It's where Minsar has been working on building our software for the last 4 years, and just seeing the difference between what kind of technologies were available at the start of the journey to today, where we can basically almost do everything that we've been imagining we could do from the beginning. It's just really incredible to see how fast it's developing.
Sure. Yeah, I think just based on what you both described, or what all three of you described, at any point within that journey, clients or retailers and brands are going to want to extract the data from each of those points and then reiterate that. So, Raheel, you were talking about sort of an iterative process where, we keep feeding that data back into the loop to make the tools smarter for the customer. And I think that's, from an insights and data standpoint, is where the value becomes then. So. Great. Well, Raheel, Sila, and Haley, thank you very much for the discussion. I think we're going to pivot over to our two demos. So, Noam, I believe you're at the ready. And if you want to start, Noam, and then after that, we'll go with Neha. And then after the two demos, folks, for those listening in, we'll have a Q&A session. So Noam, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Noam Levavi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Beyond XR. And thanks for having me this morning. I'm always happy to listen and talk about the future of AR and VR. As a kid, I was always wondering how our reality was going to take shape, as technology continued to evolve. I remember my first ZX computer, I got it for my birthday in 1895. It had a total memory of 16K, a tape cassette that I used to store my programming, and a monochrome display. I was dazzled then by the magic that computers can generate. And all along, continued to dream of how to use the latest technology as it continues to evolve in accelerated pace. Well, 3 decades have progressed. And today we have the power to simulate very complex environments, including stores and showrooms with thousands of products as a highly photorealistic spaces. It looks so real that most people won't even recognize that this is not actually generated by a computer. Only a few years ago, this technique were only available for top gaming and Hollywood studios. And today we bring it to basically everyone. The adoption of AR and VR headsets will probably going to take a few more years. So today, brands and retailers are looking to bring immersive experiences to their customers over regular web browsers. One of the biggest challenges is how to run these heavy 3D interactive experiences smoothly on just a simple web mobile device, and do it all in real time over just regular 4G network. And this is actually where Beyond XR come to play. Let me just share my screen and some of the experiences while I'm speaking. Okay.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. All right. So in the past few years, we've built a unique commerce platform supported with our proprietary 3D visualization engines. The platform powers retailers to quickly create immersive selling experiences, utilizing their own existing content. Basically, it's a B2B codeless SaaS platform that connects sellers and buyers in the most immersive way. The technology can serve both in-store interaction and online interaction via e-commerce website. And in the past year, we've helped top brands create an immersive user journey utilizing their existing 2D assets embedded in 3D environment. These new experiences are fully interactive, much more engaging, and increase conversion and basket size. The experience lets users to be immersed in these virtual worlds, as you see here. We can mimic real flagship stores. It's not just a 360 capture, but a real dynamic environment. For apparel brands and manufacturers, you can showcase their seasonal connection, the new styles, visualize the colorways, and simulate different top models, mannequins on top of mannequins and avatars. You can actually embed these 3D models in virtual spaces like you see here. But you can also use regular 2D images that currently have embedded in 3D environments and interact with them and get all the product information in real time, all driven from a single catalog. User can also seamlessly switch between the virtual worlds and the augmented reality mode, where you can actually bring the models in real size to your physical room, including fixture simulation. This is a very powerful experience where you can take a model, place it in your room, and actually look from all angles. For interior design and home decor, we have built a first interactive photorealistic setting tool. User can mix and match product to see, matching colors and designs. It quickly gives a much better understanding of the product and how it may fit in your own physical space. Customers can view the various products, get all the product information, build the whole scene dynamically, and select their favorite products, adding them to the basket, and eventually complete a purchase directly from the experience. And also, of course, try them using our AR, where they can bring any product into their physical room and actually see how it may look like in their own, space. Not just the way it looks, but the real size and colors, and explore it in that way. There are so many different things that I, can show you, but I just let you answer some questions, and I'm happy to address them.
That's great. Thanks, Noam. I think that was the intent, is really to show the different pieces and parts there and show the demo. And I think it's fascinating. I know we have one of the questions that's come in the chat that I'll get to after Neha goes through her demo with regards to geography and how customers around the world, seeing the QR codes in your demo sort of sparked the question there. But how QR codes affect people in Asia Pac versus the US, which hasn't adopted them, so to speak, right? So I think what we'll do is, thank you very much for that, Noam. That was a good demo. Neha, if you want to go ahead and take control and then show the demo from yourself and give a quick introduction. And then after this, we'll get into some Q&A, which have been queued up within the chat. So go ahead, Neha.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone.
Sure.
My name is Neha Singh. I'm the founder and CEO of Obsess. Obsess is an experiential e-commerce platform. Can you see my screen? Just to confirm. Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So we create virtual stores and virtual showrooms for brands that are 3D 360 experiences that all work on the web, on mobile and desktop. We essentially create very branded experiences that engage consumers, that really put them in a photorealistic CGI environment where it's not really necessarily about recreating the store, but it's about creating contextual environments. So for example, this is a travel accessory store, and we can create, digitally create a private jet where it also reduces production costs of brands, because they can now produce these campaigns without actually having to go on set to shoot. Our customers, and I'll show you more kind of live examples, but I'll just start with kind of some of our customers and our team. So our customers include Christian Dior, Chanel, Ralph Lauren, Marni, Coach, Farfetch, so a lot of luxury, fashion, beauty. We also work with Ulta Beauty, where our experience is live on their website if you go to ulta.com. Tommy Hilfiger, we recently launched virtual showrooms for Desigual, D Squared 2 as well. And we've been seeing a lot of increased activity over the last 3 months since COVID. Quickly about my background before I jump into the demos and our team. So before starting the company, I have an engineering and fashion background. I got my graduate degree in computer science from MIT. And then I was a software engineer and tech lead at Google for 5 years. While I was there, I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer because I love fashion. So I started taking fashion design classes on the side. Realized after a couple of semesters that I was really bad at drawing. So then I decided to stick to the tech side of fashion. I joined a startup called Aha Live, which was a luxury e-commerce marketplace, and really realized through that experience how difficult it is to move away from the grid-based interface on e-commerce. If you think about every website today, it pretty much looks like a grid of thumbnails on a white background, which is an interface that was created by Amazon 25 years ago to sell books. and really hasn't changed since then. After that, I was the head of product at Vogue, where I launched all of the Vogue US digital properties, worked with many luxury brands who are advertisers to create interactive digital experiences for them. And now we are basically doing that in the 3D VR AR space, but all for the web. So it's very easy to access. Our team comes from a 3D design and development background. We are based in New York, and our investors include Village Global, which is a fund backed by Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and other top tech entrepreneurs. So there are two ways in which we create virtual stores and showrooms for brands. The first is that we can take their existing physical retail stores or showrooms and essentially make them accessible and interactive and shoppable online. The use case for this is really increasing the ROI around retail. So if you're already opening a retail store, pop-up store, flagship store using this technology, you can now take that same physical space, but increase the audience and reach to a much wider base, essentially, and it can become this very interactive, rich experience. The second is that we can create the experience completely digitally, and you can either kind of recreate your store, you can create any creative experience, but it can all look really photorealistic, really beautiful, really putting the user into the brand experience. And you can interact with the products, see them in 3D, bring them up in AR through the phone camera. This particular example is for Tommy Hilfiger Summer Collection, where they created a virtual rooftop pool. And we can just take the product images off of their e-commerce feed, so we don't require 3D models of products. This can all be created with assets that brands already have. So now I'm going to show you a couple of live demos here. So this is our experience for Christian Dior for their flagship perfume store in Paris. This is live on Dior.com. So you can see here, we actually launched this at the end of February, and of course the store was closed for several months after that. But users were still able to visit the store on the website, get this beautiful brand experience, interact with every product, add it to their cart, get more information, watch videos about the product. And then this one is actually a virtual showroom for Coach. This is not photographed from their real store. It's completely created digitally, but you can see kind of the very photorealistic quality. And this is an experience that their buyers will be going through to place orders for the next season. This experience is something actually for a virtual fashion show. So this was for Tommy Hilfiger Spring 2020 collection. And so here you can really see that you can create experiences that are very much driven by the campaigns. They're very visually interesting. There's gamification in this one as well. There was actually live stream integration of their actual runway show that they had back in February, which of course now necessarily won't be happening. So it can be created virtually as well. But this experience was the first link on the Tommy.com website across all their global sites. And this is how they mainly displayed their collection to all their audience. And just to show a couple of quick beauty examples as well. So this virtual store that we have created is basically putting the user in a giant makeup box to show that you can really create rich, vibrant, experiences using this technology that can really move away from just this tedious, boring, like scrolling down a grid, that especially on the phone that e-commerce really is today. And then I'll just close with this to show, like, in terms of showrooms, like brands can get really creative in how they engage their buyers at the first phase and then consumers sort of at the next phase. And brands really in the last few months, we have created experiences that are just, some of them we can't show because they're for obviously next year's collections, but just beautiful, just extremely branded and really taking the online shopping experience to the next level. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Neha. Those are interesting. So, open it up to the panelists. I've got a couple questions that have come through, and we'll go through and please weigh in on some of these. The first one, and this was the one I was talking about previously. Well, I'll give you a little bit of background, team, and let me know your thoughts here. But it seems that the China consumer market had a significant AR, VR, makeup shopping, cosmetic shopping, making a lot of news early to mid last year via JD.com and WeChat and Alibaba. Do you see learnings from that that could come to the U.S.? So sort of alluding to this notion of, China really had an AR/VR type capability and at least consumer adoption. Do we see any trends that would lead us to believe that that would potentially replicate itself here in the U.S. or other markets?
Maybe I can just do a quick, quick few seconds from my side. So I think for sure the answer is yes. By the way, China had SARS, right, before we had COVID. And so that was in 2008. And actually, Estée Lauder companies, given we have a big footprint in China, we've actually, in post-SAR, we actually saw some of the same behavior that we're now seeing in the US, right? And so China actually was already ahead of the US when it came to adoption of these digital technologies, but also e-commerce, right? And so they were, in that sense, they were a little bit ahead, which was kind of driven because of SARS. So I think, to quickly answer the question, what we're actually seeing is that you are able to scale the learnings to the West. The underlying behaviors are similar. Obviously, the skin needs are different, and how perhaps the way the consumers discover it is different in different categories. But there are a lot of similarities. There are certain granular nuances, which you can then, exactly, John, to your point, if you have an underlying data system where you can learn from kind of like what you're implementing, you can tweak and those granular differences. But very much so, what we're seeing is that you can scale it.
Have any others seen that? Yeah, go ahead, Noam.
Yeah, just to add, the e-commerce in general in China works a little bit different than what we know in the US. A lot of the brands are having their like mini destination within WeChat or as part of other
Tmall, right?
Yeah. And in the US, a lot of the brands are sending through channels of obviously like Amazon, but they all have their own destinations, like their own website where they're kind of like looking to bring traffic to their own destination, which is a little bit different than how it happens in China when it all kind of incorporated under like one roof, and you add in like an AR capability, so you can give it access to everyone that it's already there, which is a little bit different than other like platforms. So people are using Shopify or this kind of e-commerce platform where they bring new capabilities. You can enjoy that, but there's the diversity and the way that the implementation of e-commerce website in the US, it's pretty much different than how it works in China. So I think it's a little bit more challenging to kind of like bring new technology and kind of expose it to everyone altogether.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts, folks?
I guess I'll just add that, in terms of signs, I'm based in France, but, in terms of these technologies moving west, since COVID, I've seen things becoming more and more contactless over here. Like basically you go into a store, you don't try anything on anymore. You scan a QR code and, so if it's a restaurant, the menu pops up. If it's a store, you have some kind of experience associated with it. But I'm seeing more and more of this every time I leave the apartment, which isn't that often, but I am definitely seeing signs of this technology spreading to Europe at least.
Great. Any other thoughts, folks? So another question that we have, and it's really for Noam and Neha, I guess. Do you see your technologies being also used in the store as well as to extend the buying experience as stores opt for smaller footprints? So sort of this notion of an endless aisle on steroids, so to speak, right? And being able to be used as brands and retailers relook at their store footprint and store sizes.
Yeah, for us, we started really with the e-commerce space, and our mission is to change the e-commerce interface to make it more engaging for categories like fashion and beauty, where it's really kind of lacking. But certainly, because our platform is web-based and it actually works great on all screen sizes, all the way from mobile to like giant touchscreens, many retailers are considering using that, and we haven't had an experience yet launch in store in that way, but I think it's something that we are getting more inquiries for more recently to create an experience or a space for products that don't physically exist in that particular retail store, but can still give customers a very close look at it, as well as in kind of the branded way the brand wants to display them.
Yeah, just to add to that, so I've been basically building in-store experiences for the last 25 years. That's what my previous venture did, and we've been doing, from Chanel stores to the Nike flagship stores and many iconic venues, and help retailers basically creating customer experiences within the stores. But when you do that, you relies on existing equipment, mainly, if it's audio, so speakers, it's visuals, it's displays. When you talk about AR and VR, since the adoption of like the real headsets that we can leverage to create an immersive, like unique experiences are not there yet. So people can use AR on their mobile phone or use a large touch screens. But this is not a very good way to shop, in stores. You want to be focused on the product, on the thing, and not on your mobile phone. But you can definitely extend it, and we've been doing some AR experiences using AR, using mobile phones. I think that in the next couple of years, we're going to see new introduction of AR glasses from companies like Apple and Facebook and Google and others. And this is probably going to change the way we see results in the store. Because once you have the AR part of you and you don't need to hold the phone and everything, we recognize automatically, and you can get a product information and comparison and really utilize the online world within the physical world in a very seamless, intuitive way. That's probably going to change the way that we do, purchasing things or do kind of like in-store experiences. For now, it's a little bit tricky for the devices that we use.
Okay. I had another question come in, and I think we touched on this a little bit in the first half hour, but have we seen good examples of where AR and VR gets integrated with the social aspect of community, friends, and other buyers? So the whole social media integration, and has anyone seen any good examples of that or trends of where that's playing out?
I could answer that question to start. So I've had some agencies that use a lot of like gamification to incorporate like a community feeling. And one of the use cases that they do is like a treasure hunt. And it's basically, you take the concept basically of Pokemon Go, but you apply it to retail. Let's just take an example of a pizza shop. They hide, several pizzas throughout the area where they're based. First person to find it, takes a screenshot, shares it on social media. It becomes a whole thing. Several people can participate in finding it. I would say that's kind of a way that you can bring people together to do an experience in AR VR.
Great. Anybody else have any other examples that they've seen or want to comment on that one?
Yeah, we actually, beyond Excel, we've done a couple of experiences similar to what you just described, kind of like bringing social elements into the experience and hiding coupons, in different spaces so people can kind of create a kind of a gamifying experiences. But I think when you talk about social, so Facebook are, they're working very hard on like Oculus and the new platform. There are other players, our space, by Peter Chu, founded HTC, is running this new company that it's all about social. They provide, they develop a new platform for social platform headsets that's probably going to be released in the next few months. And this is all about like how to communicate and how to share experiences together. It's a whole new type of experiences where you can bring your friends and actually look at them and go shop together. So we see like the early stages of this like new platform that emerge. And this is gonna change the way, instead of just bringing, I don't know, a photo or a video into an experience from a social media, suddenly you can see your friends, you can communicate, you can bring different content and share it together. And that's gonna probably going to change the way that we communicate and bring, you know, social into VR.
Great. Super, thank you. All right, team, I think we have some time left for maybe one more question. So this one is interesting when I really getting at this whole notion of, from a business perspective, let's say we can implement some of these pieces, or we've implemented some of these pieces. What have we seen, at least from a conversion standpoint? And does anybody have any either anecdotes or actual conversion differences in terms of shopper conversion when some of these capabilities have been present for different brands or retailers?
So from our side, yes, that's definitely something we measure on the virtual stores. We have seen from some of the larger brands that I showed sort of in the customer list, we have seen conversion rate increases of up to 70% from customers who are going through the virtual store on their website versus those who aren't. For some of the smaller brands, we have seen even higher increases, or also seen higher AOV or cart size, definitely higher engagement. So for each experience, it depends, you know, as any kind of marketing campaign, what type of traffic they're driving to it, whether it's paid or organic, and that affects the numbers for this experience like any other. But if you do sort of like an A/B test between customers who have not been through the virtual stores versus those who have, you can kind of see that both in their behavior within the virtual store experience, but also past it. So once they are kind of out of it and, you know, using the regular website, you see a higher engagement. And we have kind of much more detailed data that we can share individually.
Sounds good. Any other thoughts or comments there, folks?
Yeah, just from our experience, so we also saw a huge increase in engagement. And also what we measure, the KPIs that we usually measure is like conversions and basket size, both on the in-store and the e-commerce side. But it's also interesting to look at like large company like House that when they say that like when the users using their AR models, they sell 10 times more, you know, than when they don't use it. We've seen like L'Oreal, you know, they claim that like they have 3 times conversions, you know, when they use the AR functionality. IKEA says the same. So you see like the big brands are actually showing like real increase in both conversion and basket size when they do it properly.
Great. Well, Noam, Neha, Sila, Hallie, Raheel, thank you all. It's been my pleasure moderating this panel. And we thank you for your time and your input and all of your insights. John, if I turn it back over to you now.
Sure. Thank you so much, John. I just wanted to offer our thanks from the FACC to all the panelists and the demo companies for being a part of this, and a massive thank you to John for being such a great moderator here. You know, we're looking forward to working with Capgemini on another type of event like this soon. And with that,
Hey, John.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Hey, everyone.
with that, I think we'll see everyone soon, and thank you all for coming.
Thanks.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.